Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing my April reading wrap up. I read 7 books during April, which I am so happy with because I was in a huge reading slump for pretty much the entire month. So 7 books this month was like the equivalent of 30 books any other month. I honestly didn't think I would have read anything by the end of the month. I read 2 books at the start of the month and then nothing in the middle. There was about 3 weeks when I read absolutely nothing. And then in the last 3 days of April, I read about 4 or 5 books. So I don't really know what went on there, but I'm very happy to finally be out of my reading slump and finally be able to read lots and lots and lots of books. So I started off the month by reading Landmarks by Robert Macfarlane. This is a nature writing style book and it's all about the landscape we live in and the words we use to describe those places. So there are chapters on a book that Robert Macfarlane has read that is inspired by a landscape, and then at the end of each chapter is a glossary of words that we use to describe certain places. So for example, the first glossary is on flatlands, there is a glossary for coastlands, all the kinds of places that you can imagine in our country that you could describe with words. I gave this 5 stars because it was such a beautiful book. I loved every second of reading it. I've dog-eared so many pages that I wanted to save, so many words. I've got a notebook of words I wrote down that I liked from the glossaries, and I really loved the interactive feel of this book, how you feel like you're part of the landscape as you're reading it. I haven't read many nature writing books, but it's definitely not going to be my last because I loved it, and I've actually bought quite a few since reading this. It's really inspired me, and I think I'm going to work my way through the Wainwright Prize shortlist. So I've already read The Shepherd's Life by James Rebanks, which I loved. I've now read this. I'm now going to read The Outrun by Amy Liptrot and a few more other books like that. I love it. I find that these kinds of books really help with how we understand the environment and how we can look after it, which I find really important. The second book I read in April was One Silver Summer by Rachel Hickman. I would describe this as a teen book. It's not really middle grade, it's not really YA, it sits somewhere in the middle, and it's about a girl called Saskia who moves to England for the summer from the US. She's had a tragic accident happen to her, which means that she's living with her uncle in Cornwall, and it's also about a boy with a secret. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because I've got a few videos with Rachel coming up on my channel which I think you'll find interesting. The first one will be up very soon and it's all about publishing because Rachel is a publisher at Chicken House, and the second one is all about the book. So I think it would be better to hear about it from Rachel. But I did really enjoy this one. It was very different. I would describe it as an escapism book where you read it and you can just escape, and it gives you really nice warm feels. It's not very serious, which I liked. There are serious things that go on in it, but it doesn't feel really heavy, and it's just the kind of book that you can read and just feel good afterwards. So I think those books are really important. I think often we can put weight on books with heavy issues that make you cry and this and that, but actually sometimes we need books that maybe couldn't happen in real life but are still nice to read about, because isn't that what books are about? To discover something new? So I really like that side of it. So do keep an eye out for the videos I've got coming up with Rachel. I think you'll really enjoy them. I really enjoyed filming them. After reading One Silver Summer, I really did slip into a reading slump. I just did not know what to read. I must have picked up about 50 different books and I could not finish any of them. I couldn't even get past the first page on many of them. I just couldn't read words. Nothing. I could not do anything. And then I think it was a Sunday night or something, and I didn't really have anything to do, or I was trying to avoid doing revision. Yeah, I never do that. I decided to pick up this book, which I bought a few days before in Waterstones because I'd never heard of it and it sounded really interesting. And it was Kiss Cam by Kira London. This is published by Swoon Reads, which is an imprint of Macmillan. And I haven't really heard of any of their books before, but it is a YA book. And this is all about YouTube and vlogging. So I really enjoyed it because I really love those types of books. I don't think there's enough published. I want to write one of my own very soon. And I loved it because I could really relate to the YouTube side of it. And also it was one of those books that has a really cute romance that you do swoon. It is published by Swoon Reads for a reason because it just gives you all the happy feels inside, and I loved it. It's exactly what I needed. I really needed some cute romances this month, and really that's what got me back into reading. So I loved Kiss Cam. It wasn't the most serious of books, but like I said earlier, who needs serious books all the time? Sometimes you need really fluffy, light fiction, and Kiss Cam was that in the best way possible. It's about 3 friends called Juniper, Jasper and Lenny who have a YouTube channel and they make videos and do different things. They're kind of like daily vloggers, but they do it a few times a week instead of every day. And then they start this segment on their channel called Kiss Cam because all their followers ship Juniper and Jasper, and it's all about fandom really. And if you like fandom culture, I think you'll really enjoy this. If you like watching YouTube, then I think you'll like this. I just thought it was really great and I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It was a really good read. It is exactly what I needed and I binge read it in I think about an hour. I loved it so much. Then about 3 weeks passed without me reading a single book and I couldn't believe it. I felt really bad because I hadn't read anything and all I wanted to do was read and I couldn't seem to read anything. But then I decided to switch it up a bit. I charged up my Kindle and thought I've got so many books on here that I really need to read. So I decided to read The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is her second book. I really enjoyed Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which was her debut novel, but I was really excited to read The Upside of Unrequited when I first heard about it. It's about a girl called Molly who has had 26 different crushes, including Lin-Manuel Miranda, and she just doesn't think she's ever gonna find love, and her sister is getting into a new relationship and Molly just feels really left out. She gets sick from one of her grandmas who says that she needs to lose weight and she'll never be in a relationship if she doesn't, and this really gets to Molly and she really wants to be able to push past this fear of rejection and find somebody who she really likes. It was the cutest book ever. I loved Molly so much. I loved her love interest, which I won't spoil because I think the surprise for me was finding out who it actually was. It made me want to squeal and just go, ah, I love this book. I want to consume it whole because it's amazing. It was so good. I did much prefer it to Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda. I think that was partly because Molly is a girl and I could relate to her more than I could Simon, but I still really loved them. I think Becky Albertalli is an incredible author and I just love her books. I did really enjoy this one though. There isn't much between them, they're very different books, but I really liked what Becky Albertalli did with it and I gave it 4.5 stars because it was great. I'm gonna read everything else that Becky Albertalli writes. She is a really talented writer and I think if you're looking for a romance that doesn't stick to the usual formula, you can't go wrong with The Upside of Unrequited. After that I read another seriously cute book, which is I think one of the best books I have read so far this year. It is going to be up there on my end of year favourites list, I can already tell. It is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sanja Menon. I loved this book. I picked it up on a whim. A lot of people were talking about it and I got my copy on NetGalley and I was just like, yes, I'm going to read this. It is the best book I've read all year. I loved it. One of the best contemporaries I've read, I think, maybe since Fangirl, and that is saying a lot. It's about a girl called Dimple who's going to go to college in the autumn, but in the summer she wants to go on this course about coding and creating an app. She's very into her technology, which I really loved reading about, and her mum is very keen on this idea because she thinks if she goes there she will find her ideal Indian husband. It's also about a boy called Rishi whose family knows Dimple's family and they have set them up in an arranged marriage. But Dimple has no clue that this is going on and Rishi goes to this coding course with Dimple and springs it on her and she is like, what? I hate my family, what have they done? And it's funny, it's smart, it's really nice to see a girl coding. I thought that was great and it's also one of the most sweet, unexpected romances I've read about in a long time. If you love Stephanie Perkins, I think you'll love this even more. I think it's even better. It did kind of remind me of Isla and the Happily Ever After, but actually I much preferred When Dimple Met Rishi. So I think you're all going to love it. I would highly recommend that you go and pre-order it right this minute. It is a book that I loved so much. I gave it 5 stars, but if I could give it 500 stars, I would. But sadly Goodreads won't let me do that. But I would if I could. I loved this book so much. I'm going to be raving about it a lot more on my channel. You can expect that. It is brilliant. It's wow. I'm blown away by it, and Sanja Menon is an author really to watch out for. I want another book from her immediately because her writing is exactly what the YA genre has been missing for a very long time. It was great. A really standout book. I then read The Opposite of You by Lou Morgan, which was supposed to be a YA thriller, but sadly I wasn't very thrilled. I did not enjoy this book whatsoever. I gave it 2 stars. It was good in places, but really it did fall flat for me and I was very disappointed with it. It's about 2 twin sisters. The book is told in dual perspective and one of the sisters, Naomi, goes missing, and Bex, the other sister, has to go and find her and track her down, and it's kind of got a supernatural twist as well. I don't know about YA thrillers, but I can't find one that I really like. Whenever I seem to read them, I seem to end up disappointed. There was also some kind of weird insta love going on, and I ended up just skipping through as much of it as I could. There was nothing really that kept me wanting to read. I did read all of it. I thought the ending was still quite good, and I don't know, there wasn't many threads to follow throughout. So because of the dual perspective, you knew what was happening, so there wasn't anything to guess. It wasn't like it was a murder mystery or anything. You knew everything was going to happen. So there was kind of a, oh, is everything going to end up okay moment, but in the end I didn't really care. I didn't care about the characters, I didn't care about any of it really. I was very disappointed with this. Yeah, I haven't really got anything much more to say. I wouldn't really recommend it. I know that Leah Morgan is a really great writer. I've read some of her other stuff as another name she writes under, and I loved that. But sadly, this was not the book for me. It's not to say somebody else won't enjoy it, but I did not. I'm sorry. And then the final book I read in April was another one that I was very disappointed with. I actually didn't end up finishing this because I just did not like it at all, and it was Thornhill by Pam Smythe. This is a book that is a graphic novel and actual novel at the same time, so it's half novel, half graphic novel, which I thought would be really interesting to read. I thought that would make it really good, but I just did not like this whatsoever. I gave it 1 star, I didn't finish it. I just couldn't with this book. It was so boring. I got about 160 pages in, which actually is quite a big chunk, and nothing had happened. Absolutely nothing. It was told in diary entries 1 part, and they were, I just did not like the style whatsoever. And then there was the graphic novel part, but because it's just pictures, I didn't really know what was going on. I was so bored by it. I was so bored. Nothing had happened. I thought it was supposed to kind of be creepy and gothic, but I just did not know what was going on. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what this book was about, and I read 170 or something pages of it, and absolutely nothing happened, and I just don't know. I expect when I'm that far into a book for something to actually have gone on. I couldn't tell you any of the characters' names, I couldn't tell you anything about it. The only good thing I will say is that the illustrations are really good. She's obviously a very talented illustrator, but it really did fall flat with me, and I won't be talking about it again. That's all I can say. I was so disappointed by this book. So that was my April reading wrap up. Let me know in the comments a book that you read that you loved in April, and we can share the bookish love. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Happy reading!